Hi guys, NCWQ here, and we have a new article that's coming from Israel Times News, and this is Bill Gates will try to block the sun, Tower of Babel in 2019. A team of scientists, personally sponsored by Bill Gates, plan on countering the effects of global warming by injecting millions of tons of dust into the atmosphere to block the sun's rays. Despite the clear and obvious concerns, the first test run is set to take place any day now, ScopeX filling the sky with dust. The new project, titled the Stratospheric Controlled Perturbation Experiment, will team with Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft and one of the wealthiest men in the world, with some of the world's best and brightest scientists at Harvard University. The plan involves more than 800 special aircraft carrying millions of tons of calcium carbonate, a compound used commonly in cement and medicinally as an antacid, into the stratosphere. The idea is to mimic the effects of massive volcanic eruptions, which have lowered global temperatures in a phenomenon known as volcanic winter. Violent eruptions can send volcanic ash and droplets of sulfuric acid into the atmosphere, obscuring the sun and raising Earth's albedo, increasing the reflection of solar radiation. Most recently, the 1991 explosion of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines, the second largest eruption of the 20th century, cooled global temperatures by about 9 degrees, 0.9 Fahrenheit, for about 2 to 3 years. The project is already behind schedule, with the first test scheduled to have been carried out in the first half of 2019 at a cost of $3 million. This initial test involves sending a high altitude balloon up 12 miles to seed an area half a mile long and 100 yards in diameter with 2.2 pounds of material. Using propellers to maneuver, the balloon would then move through the cloud of dust, mixing the dust and monitoring the results. Geoengineering, manipulating the environment, is the wave of the future. ScopeX is just one of many projects that have been proposed for climate engineering, but the first that will be tried outside of the laboratory. The United States, the United Kingdom, and Germany have all supported research into these such projects. There are similar efforts in China and Japan. There are currently two main approaches under the geoengineering umbrella: carbon dioxide removal, CDR, and solar radiation management, SRM, with ScopeX falling under the latter category. The project has encountered objections from environmentalists who prefer carbon emissions management to geoengineering. But SRM is economically attractive. In a 2018 report, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, suggested that a fleet of high-flying aircraft dispersing sulfur, similar to that emitted by volcanoes, could lower global temperatures by roughly 1.5 Celsius, around $1 billion to $10 billion per year. Biblical mandate or apocalyptic nightmare. Rabbi Avram Areha Trugman, director of Or Kadash Torah Institute, was cautiously optimistic about the project. There is a fine line between playing God and Tikkun Olam, fixing the world, Rabbi Trugman told Breaking Israel News. If you don't get it right, you're courting disaster, Rabbi Trugman noted that this was also true for other branches of science, like genetic research. Genetic modification has created crops that save thousands of people, but they also can cause great harm. Every case is different and requires individual scrutiny. There is a place where people are supposed to intervene in nature, Rabbi Trugman said, citing a verse in Genesis. Hashem blessed them, and Hashem said to them, "Be fertile and increase, fill the earth and master it, and rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and all living things that creep on earth." Genesis 1:28. This mandate is not for us to rule for greed or profit or ego, Rabbi Trugman said. God wanted us to rule over the world, but not destroy it. This is through our intellect, but also through our morals and ethics. These projects, if they are real, tikkun alam, if they are to be real, need to be within reason, and there needs to be a moral oversight by people who are not motivated just by science or profit. There has to be order concerning these things in the world community, since these are global implications if they succeed or if they go wrong. The concerns that geoengineering could go wrong are already being expressed. One fear is that spreading dust into the stratosphere may damage the ozone layer, necessary to protect the planet from hazardous ultraviolet radiation, which can damage cellular DNA and cause cancers. Climatologists are also concerned that tinkering with the climate, known as geoengineering, could unintentionally disrupt the circulation of ocean currents that regulate our weather. Implementing it in one country can trigger rain and extreme weather across borders. It is also not known how blocking the sun will affect crops and ecosystems. Another key issue is what happens when the SAI is discontinued. The termination shock would cause a spike in temperatures, creating huge problems for future generations who did not consent to the practice. Tower of Babel revisited. Yuval Ovadia. Let me restart this. Sorry, guys. Yuval Ovadia, whose videos on Nibiru have garnered hundreds of thousands of views, is more skeptical of scientists teaming up with billionaires to save the world. Even when it comes to much worse threats like nuclear war, the elite and those who can afford resort to preparing bunkers, Ovadia told Breaking Israel News, noting that before crisis, sales of bunkers, including luxury bomb shelters, increased drastically. They think they can control the environment, and they also think they can control man. They think they can keep the populace calm by investing in projects that may or may not solve the problem. Ovadia compared Scopex to the Tower of Babel. They think they control men and God, heavens and earth, Ovadia noted. Men in that age were on a very high spiritual level. They knew much more practical Kabbalah, and could manipulate nature through using Lashon HaKodesh, holy language. What they could do in the era before Tower of Babel made today's science look silly. That is how they were able to build a tower to heaven, something modern technology still cannot accomplish. So God came down and messed up their language so they could no longer manipulate nature. Great deeds are not forbidden, but they require a purity of purpose and attachment to the divine, Ovadia said. This is a way in which those who only seem good, but are actually not are weeded out. Who took part in Tower of Babel? The very wealthy and the engineers, just like this new project to block out heaven by using dust. Ovadia noted, this is the very scenario was described by autistic children in Jerusalem who are frequently consulted by rabbis for their prophetic ability. The children said that scientists act as if they are God, as if they are in charge of the world and its destiny, Ovadia said. This is precisely what God hates the most, so he turns their own efforts against them. Anyways, you guys, I hope you liked the video. Again, this is coming from breakingisraelnews.com. I'll let this video end up, and much love, you guys. I hope you're doing great wherever you are in the world, day or night.